Hello, I'm Bob the Bookerer and welcome to my channel. And today I wanted to talk about a book that has just been released and is sort of relevant to have its own video for several reasons. The book itself, All the Young Queers by Nathan Evans, is a short story collection that really focuses on various different parts of what it means to grow up and realise that you're different in some capacity. And particularly this feels relevant because we're in LGBT History Month at the moment in the UK. This book is a book that really speaks to history and to kind of the current day. And because the author, Nathan Evans, wrote one of my favourite books from last year, One Last Song, about two men who meet in a care home and develop a relationship from there. I think this book is stunning and just so beautifully done. And Nathan Evans and his ability to capture voices is very much on show in this book as well. So published by Inkandescent Press, who are a small indie press that put out LGBTQIA+ writing, and I think have done a really great job in finding exciting and interesting voices. Nathan Evans is one of the publishers, and this is his book. But I just really enjoyed this. I mentioned it in a weekly wrap-up as well, but I think it does so many things that are so interesting with form and with playing around with how a short story can look or what a collection might look like. So to start with, as the sort of subtitle here, 16 to 24 years, suggests, this is a book that looks at different parts of that experience, and particularly that odd, weird period of growing up where you start to work out who you are, or sort of everything is happening for the first time, everything is new. And so a lot of this resonated with me in a really powerful way. But the short stories themselves are focused on different years, but also different people all the way through. It's not one person throughout their life, but sort of several different people. And we have lots of different things that come up here about, for example, LGBTQIA+ people and faith, or dating apps, or sort of difficulties around addiction and chemicals and various other things. It does so, I think, really sensitively and really beautifully. So to take some of the first short stories, they look a little bit at the modern day, but also we have characters who are talking about growing up in specific periods of history. So we get a young man growing up, realizing he might be gay, and part of that is also him attending a protest and being around these people who are like him for once, and seeing feeling the sense of community that comes from that. And this resonates quite a lot with me, where I remember when I was, I think I must have been 17 or 18, going to London Pride for the first time. And I went with a youth group, like an LGBT youth group, and it was so powerful to suddenly see thousands of people line the streets who were like me in some way. And I think he really beautifully captures this, Nathan Evans really beautifully captures this in the book, of what it looks like to be at a protest or a march or some kind of thing like that, and to see yourself surrounded by so many other people, and in the case of the short story, see someone who you have a massive crush on, which is also beautiful and lovely. So I think that short story was really powerful. There's one that I really greatly enjoyed as well. There's a short story that is written as a conversation between two men on a dating app, and it starts from a kind of BDSM perspective of a kind of sort of arranging kind of, what it's going to look like when they meet, and the kind of various sort of chats that they're having in the lead up to that. And it ends on this funny note around actually trying to work out who's, what each other's names are, because this is alluded in for the several pages of messages between that. But there's also a really poignant moment in that same short story of realizing just how far things have come. It's an older man talking to a slightly younger man, and the older man is noting that this young man is out and has had a good time relatively of being able to be out, and this older man is looking at it and thinking, I'm so hung up on so many things that that had happened, and so it's really interesting to see this vulnerability creep in from this man who is otherwise trying to be this sort of more dominant sort of sir figure in all of this. And so there's something really beautiful about watching him have that little moment of realizing that things are slightly different, and to some degree his guard has been so up for so long that it's really tricky. There's another short story that I think is so inventive in how it tells what it's doing, because it is not told at all like a story. It is, at least in a traditional sense. The whole, I think it's called Chemistry or something like that. It is told entirely, let me find it, the Chemistry set. And if you see here, as I flick through, it's all written as these things like a medical report, a witness statement, a victim's personal statement, at one point an article in a newspaper, and all to talk about chemsex, which has been a real phenomenon that has sort of really sort of blighted a lot of communities, and particularly for a lot of men who have sex with men. It's been a real issue that, you know, many people have these sort of blackout periods of essentially a long weekend where something happens, they don't quite know what it is, they don't know quite how much consent has been involved. And the book, I think, that short story, Chemistry Set, I think really beautifully captures the nuances behind some of those things. So for this man, there are these statements of people he works with saying, well, you know, this seems really out of character for this man, or these things really surprise us. There are things about people feeling some sort of contrition about what they've done, but also to some degree a terror that they don't recognize the person who was involved in that. They don't recognize who it was who may have committed things, or who may have been passed out on the side for hours. These sorts of things I think are captured really beautifully in that. And I think there's something almost haunting about the fact that we're not hearing a first person narrative of a short story there, or even watching somebody experience it. We're told only through these snippets of things like things like a police report or a medical report. And so there's something clinical and detached about it, which in some ways is an interesting mirror of the kind of experience for many people as well. So I think that was really powerfully done, and that was a bit of a gut punch to read, but I think speaks to this book's sort of brilliance in that it's able to capture all these little parts about what it means to some degree to be particularly a gay man in the current time. Of there are these echoes of the past of, you know, people who are living in shame, or people who have various hang-ups from their past experiences. Also these people who are having these really beautiful moments of self-discovery and exploration, and falling in love for the first time, and are doing all these other things. And then a story like Chemistry Set that reminds you of some of what may be, you know, under the surface, and a sort of thing that we don't often see, all happening. This is, I think, a really, powerful reminder of a lot of things that are going on. A lot of my personal and professional life is around the LGBT community, and it's so interesting to see so many of the things that come up routinely, particularly, you know, we're in LGBT History Month, where history, you know, doesn't repeat itself, but maybe it rhymes or it echoes, that there are things that are happening again and again. And I think it's so beautifully captured in this short story collection, and in so many of them. There are some really I realise I'm focusing on some quite sort of dark parts here. There are some incredibly light and very funny stories of people in love, and sort of misunderstandings with parents, and all of those sorts of things. I think it's beautiful, and it speaks so cleverly, I think, of various parts of the experience for so many people. So yeah, I really do urge you, if this sounds like the kind of thing you might enjoy, to pick this up. It's just recently been released, and I think sort of, again, an indie press sort of knocking it out of the park in terms of taking on some of the stories that I think a lot of other people maybe might shy away from, that maybe feel a bit scarier to try and address. But I think this is a really beautifully done collection that kind of captures a lot of that as well. So yeah, please do enjoy if it sounds like your thing. I've been Bob the Booker. Take care and speak to you all soon. Bye-bye. Happy History Month.